we'll introduce David Henderson and Alexander Pirie, who are part of the Net Zero Arran group, and they're looking at quantifying the carbon footprint using AgriCalc, and trying to reduce the carbon footprint of the island, and you're working quite collaboratively, it sounds like, working with lots of different people to try and share that learning, and trying to link farm businesses, processors and retailers. And you said it was quite good that RIS has sort of given the scope to get everybody in the same room, that wouldn't normally happen. So David, do you want to just sort of give us a brief overview of the group, what it's trying to do, and how you got involved? How did the project come about?
Hi there, everybody. My name's David Henderson with Farm in Arran, with a family farm. We got into this group through SEC, through Alec, with the beef efficiency scheme, where he was doing our carbon audit for us, and he then wanted to kind of start up an island-based group with all the farmers and other businesses involved, just to see to compare everybody's audits and to see where people could improve, where improvements could be made from other farms, and you could see what other folk were doing to see how we could improve our own place. So it's the first, as Alec was saying, the first meeting we had was January time. We've had one meeting, and then COVID's come on, and we've obviously everything's been kind of put on hold because of that. But as we're discussing with Alec earlier, it might actually be quite good, a good time to start the group, because we have got this COVID issue now to deal with as well. So it might actually have timed it quite well for our group, so we can look at ways to work around it as well and work together with it. We supply our local butcher with lambs, so they all he's like 5 minutes along the road for us, so we supply him with lambs. But unfortunately now all the hotels in Ireland have closed. There's no tourists here, so his business is fallen out. So the lambs, we had a lot of lambs ready to go for him that we had to just sell through the local markets, which obviously wasn't as good a return for us. But it's just one of the things that's happened because of it. I'll let you any more.
Well, yeah. So some of the people listening in might remember that the initial idea for the group was very broad, and it's still potentially very broad. But yeah, I think we kind of founded the group by bringing together various different interest groups on the island. So like David says, there were those who were in the beef efficiency scheme that maybe wanted to see how we take that forward and use that data. We had special interest groups like the Taste of Arran have been very supportive, Eco Savvy, as well as clients on the island who have historically been involved in landscape scale conservation, and small farms on the island that were very keen to get involved with the larger community. So it really is kind of a mosaic of different interests, but trying to bring it together, like David says, using AgriCalc to quantify the island's carbon footprint, and then have some kind of collaborative vision for how we tackle common issues and see if we can bring that down. Obviously, we called it net zero, but that is aspirational more than anything else.
And so were many people using AgriCalc before they got involved with the group? Were they using that through the beef efficiency scheme or other things before this group started? Or is there some folks that have just started using it because of this group?
I would say in general, we have folk who are using it as part of the beef efficiency scheme, but there are particularly your smaller farms and your new entrants that want to see what the baseline for the farm is, who've picked up on it really quite well, and then there are those who use it kind of as a set of carbon accounts. And want to review their emissions in the same way you would review your farm finances.
I think it's quite significant there, Alex, saying how it's new entrants that are maybe coming into it as well.
Yep.
Whereas a lot of the older generation farmers don't really want to get involved with carbon audits, so it's interesting to get the younger generation involved, and they're more interested in their carbon audits and that, and looking at environmental stuff.
And do you think as well, this was sort of touched on with the previous chat a bit in our breakout group, that whether people in the future will be able to sort of use their carbon kind of footprint or sort of environmental credentials to better market their produce, or you know, sort of benchmark themselves and say, you know, we're doing quite well, so we can sort of charge a bit more, or you know, whether there'll end up being schemes where that can sort of come into.
We have already seen that kind of thing being picked up, particularly in the milk sector, with the milk
Okay.
milk suppliers, the likes of First Milk or Muller, kind of are working to develop that, and I don't have any particular involvement with our South of England offices, but I know that they are working quite in depth with some banks and some big companies into how agriculture can be made more accessible. So yeah, I think it's very much the direction of travel.
Yeah, and I'm just seeing one of the comments here from Aoife saying we have a local chef involved in a post-risk group who said that being able to print carbon footprinting information on his menus would be a massive plus, as he's trying to use all local produce. So I suppose it kind of goes through the supply chain as well, if you're able to show what the sort of credentials are. And Lucy is asking, will the group go on to look at what measures farmers can then do to minimise their carbon emissions?
Yeah, so
After they've sort of measured and benchmarked.
On that point there that Lucy's made, since this meeting, or advert is out about this meeting, I've actually been approached by somebody in the petrochemicals industry who has got a new additive to put into engines, which reduces emissions and improves the performance of the engines. So he's actually based in Dubai, but he's looking, you know, he hadn't even thought of the agricultural sector for selling it in.
Yeah.
So he's actually quite interested in.
Yes, that could be a whole new market for him.
Aye. So you know, it's just wee things like that you can pick up on that could, you know, help emissions.
What agriculture allows us to do as well, so you can evaluate every business individually and the sources of emissions within that business. So what I've been able to do with the group is identify key areas where there is the largest scope for improvement across the entire group. And one of the things that we are going to look at is the use of inorganic fertilizer on the island. So we are developing a strategy for things like soil sampling. Fuel usage, as David says, is quite a big issue. That may very well be something that we take a look at, as well as just boosting the productivity of beef and sheep enterprises on the island as standard. And those are all things that we will come to.
Yeah, because like you said, you're quite early on in the journey, and just touching back on collaboration as well. It sounds like you've sort of made very quick progress and sort of pulling lots of people together. But do you think using this sort of risk process or being part of the risk group has helped you, especially David, sort of find people to collaborate with more and sort of help connect you up with other farmers and businesses and bits of the supply chain that you wouldn't have if you were just working on your own?
Definitely, I think a problem with farmers is they don't communicate with each other. And going to these kind of meetings and laying all your cards on the table is great. You know, whether it's good or bad, letting folk look at your business is better than you looking at it sometimes, because they can see it from the outside. So doing things like that is definitely going to make a difference to our, you know, going forward. And also, we're also looking at setting up
And do you
a
find
farm. On you go. We're looking at setting up a farmers kind of group, kind of buyers group type thing, so that we can all work together and
okay?
source and stuff and all that, things like that.
There
Yeah,
is
so you're all sort of sharing information more with each other,
Some of us.
your sort of business information. Yeah. I suppose it's a kind of cultural thing as well, though, isn't it? That folk just aren't used to sharing. It's very personal, isn't it?
And once one person does it, somebody else will do it, and it's just getting the initial 2 or 3 folk to do it, and then once it gets going, more folk will come on. We're
Yeah, it
talking,
sort of normalizes it.
we're talking about like liming, but lime onto fields. It's one of these things. If you see your neighbour doing it, I might do that as well. So it's just a kind of snowball effect. When you see somebody else doing it, let's just see let's see what they're doing, why they're doing it, and what they're getting, what their benefits of it are. So it's things like that. It's just, as I say, it's farmers are older generation. They're not as inclined to share info.
I see there's a question there from Anne. How many folk are actually in the group? So we have 15 members currently. There are another 3 that I'm in the process of auditing, incorporating into the standard data, and then obviously they can come along to the meetings. And we've got affiliates like Taste of Arran, EcoSavvy, SEPA and SNH have been very supportive about it as well. So we are going to continue to build out the group, and by all means, I wouldn't want to put folk off of coming to the meetings if it's something they're interested in.
Yep, and there's sort of links to a couple of comments there about this might be a good opportunity to bring in wider networks of people to some of the risk groups, because people are remote only. We're finding that some of the webinars that we've been doing, where you would normally have a sort of regional event and you'd have most of the people coming from that area, when it's online you get folk coming from everywhere. So it might be that there's more scope for collaboration, or you would get people joining a group that wouldn't normally be able to join in. And Callum's got a good point that there's a great opportunity for farmers to network online, but a very real problem with the rural connectivity and broadband, which I think we can all relate to. And yeah, Lorna's put in a comment there about liming. There's a Scottish-wide study by RESAS going on looking at liming effects on a range of different soils, and you can get in touch with her for more information. And actually what I'll say at this point, and I'll try and remind myself again at the end, is that if people have sort of useful bits of information or links to websites and things that you want to share with the group, send them to me or Anna, and we can put stuff in the follow-up email. So if there's sort of useful information that you want to share with people, let us know. So Lorna, if you want to send us a link for that, we can add that in. And
There's also
involved in a pilot project in the southwest.
There is another question there. What percentage use organic, regenerative, or permaculture practices? Maybe David will know, but I'm not under the impression that there's anybody in the group right now who is organic, though there are 2 small farms that are moving in that direction and want to look at regenerative agriculture in particular.
There probably won't be officially organic farms on Arran, but there'll be 1 or 2 that'll be very close. Will be all but names, I think, because they just haven't gone through the process. I know there is one estate that's going organic this year. They are going it, but they're probably going it not for the organic reason, just for the payment reason. It's like a different reason.
Regenerative agriculture.
In terms of
sorry.
No, sorry, on you go. You answer that one.
No, it was just to say that regenerative agriculture isn't something that we've been looking at as a topic for discussion, but I imagine there will be elements of it that will come into it, particularly as we look at soil health or the landscape scale conservation kind of aspects of things. So it is something that we'll discuss in some capacity.
And kind of links to what I was going to ask, which is, you know, some reducing inputs will be something that you look at that can have quite a big impact. And do you think there's a sort of keenness and an appetite among farmers to reduce that, or do you think it's something that makes people a bit nervous, thinking, oh, if I reduce it too much, it might have an impact on their crops and things? What do you think the kind of feeling is for going in that sort of direction?
Well,
No,
one of
oh,
sorry, David, on you go.
the notes this year about reducing the inputs is actually getting better use of the inputs. You know, using it, maybe getting more out of the inputs rather than reducing. You know, getting better usage of them. That one of the things that we could do. You know, that's why it's quite good to look at other farms, see what they're doing,
Yeah.
and compare the other. You know,
So that
compare
sort of
notes.
tie in things like, yeah,
You know, so it's you might
and
not
yes,
actually
will that
reduce
sort of
your
tie in
inputs.
things like looking at soil health and
You know, you're not actually reducing inputs. You're just getting better. You're increasing your outputs from these inputs.
One of the things that we established quite early on with the data set was that, and I don't want to go too deep into it, but so as a group, there was quite a lot of inorganic fertilizer being used per kilogram of output, and that is what we're going to look at with the soil sampling. I suspect what's probably happening on Arran is that historically there maybe hasn't been a lot of lime been put on the island. Um, and as a consequence, a dropping pH, people are maybe incentivized to put on more fertilizer than they potentially need. So that's something that we're going to investigate certainly this year. So yeah, it will be very much a case of taking a look at the resources that have been put on a farm level.
great. And I think it's come up a couple of times. I know you're sort of very early on in the process of the group, but what do you see being the sort of next steps or kind of longer term scope for the group once you've kind of collected lots of data?
Well, once the data's in and we kind of see the full picture. I mean, so sorry, I'll go back a little bit. Since the launch, I have been collecting data sets on and off as people want to enter the group. And I've reviewed the data sets twice now. Once I get to the point this year where I feel that we've kind of maxed out the members and that the data is set, we'll look at implementing things like the soil sampling or the conservation efforts with the view to maybe doing an audit once a year, just to see whether anything that we've implemented on a farm level has made a change.
That's great. Sorry, I just muted myself to cough there. And I suppose one of the things with RIS as well is the sort of access to sort of get the message out there in the farming press and social media and stuff like that. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of people following the project to see what happens with it. And we certainly make an effort to kind of tell those stories and get a lot of that information out in accessible forms to different audiences. So I suppose you'll probably see like the Apple group that something goes out in the press and it kind of gets picked up and then you get a big surge of interest and people getting in touch. So I think it's a really interesting group, and I'm just conscious that we are getting tight again for time. So we can have the last question from Anne. Do you have any fruit and veg growers at the moment?
We do, yeah, but they are smaller scale. They would very much fall into the kind of croft or small farms setup. But yes, we do, and the bulk of the group centres around beef and sheep. Although there is a dairy farmer on the island, there are farmers looking at fruit and veg. So it is about how we incorporate some of the fruit and veg stuff to make it applicable to everybody. But yes, there are certainly producers on the island.
Great. And there was another question about renewables as well. Do you think that's something that will come in
Renewables is
to the survey?
yeah, so renewables is certainly something that we will take a look at. I do know of one group member who is very keen to take a look at solar solar panels in particular. I'm sure it will come up in discussion. I'm sure it's something that we'll take a look at. One of the recommendations that we've done from a lot of the carbon audits is to look at things like rainwater capture, which I know isn't specific isn't specifically a renewable, but yeah, we are certainly going to look down at various different kinds of technology.
Great. Okay, so if folk have more questions, you can keep popping them in the chat box and we can come back to them. But we're going to move on to the breakout group now. So thanks very much, David and Alex.